Everyone wants more money, but most of us weren't taught how to create an abundant life. That's where the More Money Show comes in. If you're ready to have more money, create more freedom, and experience more fun, turn the volume up. It's time to learn how to create the prosperity and life you have been dreaming of. Here's your host, Cassie Parks.
Hello, and welcome to this episode of the More Money Show. I am your host normally, Cassie Parks, but today I am being interviewed by Maggie McReynolds. Welcome, Maggie.
Hey.
Thanks for doing this. Thanks for showing up and being here with me. If you guys have been listening, you know that I am being interviewed and letting those in the Enchanted Circle who are participating in the Year of Growth series and a couple others interview me because maybe they have questions that have been burning in your mind or their mind. It's a chance to just kind of have fun and play and ask the questions that you might have always wanted to ask.
Yeah. Get all the dirt on Cassie.
Right? I feel like it's all out there, but still, yeah.
You're pretty transparent. I'm thinking yes, but who knows? Maybe we can uncover something really delicious and fun.
It'd be fun. Yeah.
Cool.
I love it.
So Cassie, from my advanced age, it feels like you're about, a little tiny squirt. And I know it's all relative. At what point in your life do you feel like you got the way manifestation works, even at a gut level, even if it wasn't an intellectual understanding yet? Were you born with it?
I wasn't born with it, but the first time I remember is visualizing, winning a contest for $20 in the 8th grade. I knew it was possible. And I always say, I think the reason why I was more aware of this, this potential that we have, this visualization could do things, is because I was an athlete. So I paid attention, what made athletes better? How could you get better, right? And so somehow I learned that visualizing was a thing. And I remember, there's just this contest, if you sold these things, you could get entered into the contest. There were 5 $20 bills. And there were probably 200, 300, maybe 400 people that were eligible if they sold the things. It was less than that, right? But I remember going home and selling them was easy, right? My mom bought 2 and I called someone else. That part was easy. And I laid in my bed and I said, I'm just going to close my eyes and I'm going to imagine my teacher, my choir teacher, calling my name and me walking down the steps and getting the $20. And that's what happened the next day.
How cool is that?
Yeah.
And did it feel surprising, or did it feel like, well, of course?
I think it felt surprising, but of course, I think both things. Yeah. And I wouldn't use that to really understand that it was a process, right? Because I think this happens with everybody, which is why I like to talk about that specific story. It's oh, that was magic, right? But then we start to do other things. And then sometimes that same magic doesn't quite work, or we don't think it's working, right? And then so often manifestation is super easy the first time or the first 100 times until you realize it's a thing and you want to keep doing it. Yeah.
I felt that way with parking spaces, that I was generally good at manifesting them until I read, I think it was E Squared, Pam Grout's book.
Yeah.
And she actually has a specific exercise around parking spaces. And I didn't realize it was a formal thing. And once I realized it was a thing and other people were out there doing it, and I think in The Secret they talk about that. And I was it's a thing. And then I started trying to manifest spaces. And that didn't work at all.
Right? It doesn't work, right? And then you're like, oh God, I really got to manifest this product close today because I'm late. So I really need to manifest that one spot. And of course, everything, it doesn't work when you do it that way.
Right. Well, I know when you've coached me, you've asked me many times. I'm sure you will continue to ask me many times. Does your future self do that? Right. So I'm guessing my future self doesn't try to manifest a parking space. She just does. Right. She's not like my process. So for you, how did that whole understanding of it's just available to me, I don't have to try, unfold?
Such great questions. How did it's just available to me?
Yeah.
It really, it started with the process, and so I think the first thing that was big that I manifested, and that was this opposite of what I had been trying to do was when I manifested my financial freedom, when I could walk out of my corporate job and there was enough passive income to pay my bills, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that happened actually very quickly once I got clear on that. So it was, I had tried for years and years and years and to build my coaching practice because I wanted to leave my job.
Mm-hmm.
And when I made the distinction, there was one day, I had told my friend, like, I can't remember what year it was. It's probably 2012. I'm going to create a passive income product every single month. And like, now I hadn't ever sold a passive income product, but I was going to maybe I had sold a couple of $9. I was going to create them and this is going to be the path.
Yeah.
And I think it got to like February and I executed, like I stayed with my word, but somewhere along the way I was like, this is really hard. And like, it's not working. Like I could create the product, but I still wasn't selling.
Right.
And so somewhere in there, I got clear that, I don't necessarily want a coaching business. I want to have the money not to have to go to work.
Mm-hmm.
And so because I want the time to build my coaching business, but the coaching business is actually secondary. I want the time. I don't want to have to go to work. So when I got clear on that, I started opening up to other things. And there were a couple different things that came into play that I played with, just not going into action, but played with, like as soon as I had that realization, my sister says to me something about, oh, you could do this job. Like it pays like 75 to 100 an hour and you have your master's in counseling. So you'd be eligible. You'd have to do such and such and take this one class, but it was pretty easy. And at that moment, first of all, she had never said this to me before. I'd had my master's in counseling for 4 or 5 years at that point. Yeah. But I could see like, $75 an hour. I could pay my bills with that and work 20 hours and build my coaching practice. It started to get the wheels turning. And as I played, then it became clear. Then there were just some other things along the way that made real estate the path that showed up stronger.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's sort of when I realized. And then when I got out of that and I could look back, I was like, oh, that's how that happened. Like I could see it.
So it's so interesting. You were focused initially on passive income from a product, and it didn't end up being from a product at all, although you may indeed have products by now. But back then, your first step to freedom wasn't creating a product.
Right. It wasn't. It definitely wasn't. I know. And everybody thinks like, it's like, oh, I'm just going to create this product. And I mean, because that's kind of what we're sold. I mean, there's a million products out there if you're looking for quick ways to make money.
Invent an app. Patent something.
Patent something. I mean, there's a million, right? Like
make
up this one thing. If you have this one little bit of knowledge, you can sell this $97 product 1,000,000 times. And, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I thought it had to be I thought it had to be a passive income product because I didn't have time to build I had gotten clients, but whenever I got clients, I didn't have time to market. And so then I wouldn't have client again. The flow wasn't there. So that the answer's got to be passive income.
Well, right. And there's stuff out there to support that.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know what your timing was, but Tim Ferriss's 4-hour work week was hitting big in, I think, the early 2000s and, you know, or mid 2000s. And the idea was, yes, you get a product and you have a website that just spins along by itself without you. And the reason you can work 4 hours during the week is you're just making money while you sleep.
Right. Yeah, totally.
And all from this passive income product. So it's so interesting that so many of us get caught up in focusing on the how.
Yep.
Like what you wanted was to be able to quit your job and not necessarily have to show up for anything except what you chose to.
Yep.
But the first place you went to is, so how can I make that happen?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'd been trying, I mean, that was I'd been howing it for a long time. Like I'd been trying to build my one-on-one coaching practice to replace the income. And like the passive income was like the second round of howing because the first round didn't work.
Right. And it's hard, right? It's hard. You know, it's like, yuck.
Yeah. Exactly.
It's got to be easier than this. So your first books were all focused sort of on money specifically. Mm-hmm. And money is a big thing to us as humans and to us as in this country, and show us the money and where's the money and the bottom line is the money. Why did you choose to focus on money?
I mean, I don't know that I I did make the choice, obviously, but I just followed my inspiration. So once I left my job, I was inspired about 6 months before I left my job to create a thing that could help people manifest money. And it really came out of a conversation with a friend. I said, oh, I could create a product. I could create something. I could create a course that would help people manifest $350 to join her business. And like, no problem. I can always do that. Right. And so I'd outlined this very inspiredly, and I just put it down because I didn't have time to write it. It was literally an outline of like 30 things, right? Which is now currently the Manifest 10K course. And when I left my job, I realized even though there was enough passive income, it's still, things were coming up. It felt like money was flying out the door. Like I did have savings as well. And all of them made sense, right? It was like a trip I'd already planned, to go to Europe for New Year's. It was, or that might've been Toronto, but anyway, it was the trip. It was all these things that were planned, but I just felt like money was flying out the door. And I knew, because I had worked on my money mindset before, that I had to get that under control or it was not going to be good. Mm-hmm. And so I'm like, oh, I happen to have outlined a course that helps with this. It's all the things I did. Let me do the course as I write the course, and then I'll offer it to other people. Mm-hmm. And really, like the process of creating a course and then doing the things I did to fill that course and make it successful, and me learning how to be a successful coach, because I'd never sold anything. So while I was writing that course, I knew I had to get in touch with the version of myself who was successful at selling a course to people, mm-hmm. that was making money, because I had never made money. I had, I think I'd sold 2 courses once for $47 each. Mm-hmm. And so I had
it's so hard to imagine that. I mean,
I know it is. Sometimes I open my system and I'm like, today, even in fact, I was looking at what people how they were joining, because there's a couple different ways that people can get on my list to get some free goodies right now, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm like, 600 people have signed up for that. I'm like, wow. Like I didn't even, it's not a big deal anymore, but it was just like, oh, I had no idea. And 600 also signed up for this one. Oh, cool. Okay. But yeah, I didn't know what that felt like. And I had to get in touch with the version of myself that did. And so I did that as I wrote the course. And then 220 people signed up for the course. And so then I kind of just became the money. Like that made sense. And I love teaching it. It's not like I just said, oh, well, this is just what's working, so I'm going to do it.
Right.
But I love it. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I can't say I'm not about the money. So shameless plug for Cassie. I've done Manifest 10K twice. And I'm now in the Enchanted Circle. So the first time I did Manifest 10K, I manifested 20K because I'm an overachiever.
Right. Always.
And the second round, I'm so far have manifested 57,563.96. So if you put those two together, working with Cassie, I have manifested over $77,000. So
awesome, right?
Now, you guys, and that $77,000, I totally did not have 2 years ago, did not have this money.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's not like, oh, I found it, in the couch cushions, which is cool. People do. That would be awesome. Or, it wasn't like, oh, I forgot that investment I made, 25 years ago. This is actually money that did not exist in my life, or I did not perceive that it existed. And here it is. And so money is obviously not meaningless. However, I'm going to ask kind of like what I consider it's funny to put a figure to it, the $6 million question.
Oh, I love it.
Is it about the money?
It's never about the money. It's just that I know. This is the magic answer, right? Because I get this question.
I got goosebumps.
It's, and I get this question, it depends on who you're talking to, right? But I'll be like, oh, you coach people to have more money? Oh, that's I don't know. There's something about how we should want abundance or something. I don't know.
Right.
But it's never about the money, but it's what we think money can get us. It's about what we want and how we see that as a tool to get what we want. Mm-hmm. And it is our magic wand, not in that when we get it, obviously it can do some things. It can give us some experiences. We can buy that trip. We can, invest in that house, whatever it is, those kinds of things. But it's also when we realize we can have money, we realize we can have anything we want.
That's the part I really want to hear about.
Yeah.
Yeah. So money's the gateway drug, kind of.
Yeah.
Manifesting.
It is like, yeah. And it's so, and the reason why is, money is so in your face all the time, right? There's always an option to buy something. You can stop to get coffee on your way to work, or you cannot. I mean, it literally starts in the morning, whether there's enough gas in your car, whether you have to go to work that day or not, like how much you're going to get paid that day. Are you going to work overtime? Are you going to look for a new job? Like money is in our lives all the time on some level. And so when it comes to manifesting, I think it's really fun because it's one of those things that we can see the energy move super fast, we can see where our blind spots are. We can see all the things because it's so tangible in our life all the time. Yeah. Versus maybe relationship or other stuff.
Well, and I think of money as not just a currency, but a unit of energy that we've all agreed has meaning.
Yes.
Otherwise it would be, money would be, as meaningless as this sticky note here.
Right.
It's a piece of paper.
Yes.
It's a different colored piece of paper that says some stuff on it.
Yes.
But we've all agreed that it has value. We could have easily agreed that, leaves are super awesome, or beads, or, Petoskey stones,
right?
Or whatever it is.
At one time it was beads, right? It was other things. Yeah.
Yeah. So it would be so weird if we were trading in baby teeth. I'm really sorry I came up with that analogy. I'm creeped out by it now. They're so finite too. Oh.
Right.
Anyway, so yeah, I get that. And I'm guessing that for most people, especially people who are new to you or new to the concept of manifesting or law of attraction, it's just it's an easy and accessible, like you say, super visual way of going, oh, I had 0 money and now I have 10 money,
Right, yeah. It's really easy to track and count. And again, I'm an athlete, so it's really easy to keep that fun score. Right. Like for yourself, like, oh, here's you just picked up your scorecard.
I know.
Right.
I got it right here.
$1,000 this time. Right.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, that's very cool. Yeah, athletes have been visualizing for a long, long time. There are crazy studies about how successful visualization is in terms of being equivalent to training for a skilled athlete. Like I'm pretty sure I could visualize making perfect free throws till the cows come home and probably still not be able to make one. But if you've got that muscle memory and you've got the rhythm of it.
And the confidence, I think so this is one of the things I always, I realized as I evolve my practice, a little off topic, but visualization where you don't feel confident, like just visualizing like free throws, if you're not confident in them, I think actually makes the habit of not, it doesn't make it better. If visualization won't be as effective unless we can add in some confidence boost before we can do a couple things to shift it. Because most of those early studies were done on high performing athletes, right? And they're like, we want to
had the belief that they could do it.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. I mean, I don't believe I can be Queen of England. So whether that's true or not, my trying to manifest that is probably going to be limited in its effectiveness.
Right.
I'm pretty sure in my gut that this is not going to happen. And I don't know, maybe it could, but I'm pretty sure I'm going to shoot myself in the foot anyway, just because I'm like, that's not a thing.
Right. It's not a thing, but you could manifest a castle. You can manifest a life that's like the Queen of England, right?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I can do the wave already. So,
You're very good.
I'm in training.
I know. You can throw your own parades. I mean, this is the thing when you learn, right? You can create anything.
Well, that's a great point because, and I'm talking your talk because Cassie has trained me well, you guys. Would it be actually being the Queen of England that I would want energetically? Or is there something about the experience of being a queen of something? What is it about that calls to me? Being in a castle, wearing a crown, carrying an empty purse with me wherever I go. What is it? Where's the juice there for me? Having a parade, having corgis, what do I want from that? Waving that weird wave in a glove.
Yeah.
So it could be any aspect of queendom that is appealing to me without necessarily literally being Queen of England.
Right.
And I think that's kind of what you're getting at with money when you say it's what you want from being the person who has the money.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
I mean, in a vacuum, my having hundreds of thousands of dollars sitting right here on my desk would be relatively meaningless unless I could then do something with it.
Right.
I mean, if the caveat was, but you can never leave the room,
Right.
I mean,
And if it wasn't bills, you couldn't even swim in it like the duck, the DuckTales, right?
Right,
so,
right.
Yeah, if you couldn't leave the room or do anything with it, get outside of the room with it. Yeah, that's a great point. You wouldn't be as exciting.
Yeah. So for people who are listening who have not signed up for Manifest 10K or who are just kind of, playing at the edges and listening and going, maybe, like, personally, I want to say, hey, come on in. The water is super fine.
It is.
Super fine. What do you love about what you're doing with people?
I love, first and foremost, that I truly believe that, like, when you change your money story, everything else changes.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Right?
Oh, I hadn't noticed.
Yeah, right? Like, everything. And it right down to, like, the time you feel in your life, whether you feel relaxed or like everything. And so that was true for me. I watch it be true for my clients over and over again. And so I love that because it really is like changing your money story, manifesting 10,000. And the way you do that is you manifest $10,000. You set that intention and you work the process to do that because that naturally changes your story. And so, yeah, right. You automatically, it's like, we didn't just sit out to be like, oh, let's have this different story. So you go through this process like, oh, I now have $20,000 more time, more freedom, and I'm a different person. And now you have $57,000 and all this other fun stuff and a different money story.
And it is a process.
Yeah.
And it's important that it's not like you sign up with Cassie and then she's just like, so go manifest that money. Good luck.
Right.
Give me postage.
Yeah.
Really good exercises and visualizations and activities, and they're all super doable and doable in a really small amount of time each day. Yes. And it's part of not just manifesting the money, but sort of reprogramming your brain to think differently.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah. And the process is what I love the most. I love the outcome, but I love the process works every time. Like, it's because it's not about it's about drawing out what's in you and what we want more of and what we maybe don't want to focus on. Works every time. I'm always amazed. The other day in the circle, something came out about one of the people and I'm like, you do that? She's like, yeah, I do that. It's like, and I'm super excited about it again. And it just like reactivated this huge thing. The process works every time. I always tell people, because people always think there's like a right answer to my exercises. There's no right answer. I just want to see what happens.
I might have been one of those people. Maybe.
Maybe. Yeah. But it's doing the process that does rewire your brain and draws in money and creates, helps you to write a different money story that I love. And I love that it always works.
Well, right. I think a lot of us, maybe me, but I don't remember this, but I'm guessing that there are people coming to the program going, what if I'm going to be like the first one this doesn't work for?
Right. Yes.
It turns out I'm going to be super bad at this,
Yeah.
And there are no terrifying loser stories.
There aren't. Because if you do it, like, it works.
Right.
Yeah, we always get there. We always get you. And maybe the 10,000, I mean, I'm honest about this. Sometimes the 10,000 doesn't make it into the 90 days. Sometimes it shows up on day 94. Sometimes it shows up on day 180. Sometimes
it shows up on day 30. Just saying.
Right, exactly. Sometimes it's day 30, right? All are awesome. It doesn't matter, right? I love that. Thank you for throwing that in there as well.
Oh, absolutely. Well, I think if money is a man-made construct, then certainly so is time.
Right.
So,
definitely.
We've made up a bunch of interesting stuff, we humans.
I know.
And then we spend a lifetime trying to remember that, we made that up. Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Let's play with it differently.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, tell me a really super good manifesting success story. to close out on?
Oh.
Could be yours, could be anybody's.
No, I thought of a really fun story the other day that I cannot remember. It's a fun story. I just got off a client call, so I'm going to tell this story, and I'll hear it in an interview coming up anyway. But, working with a client, and we did her business budget about 2 months ago, and we're talking today, and she goes, "Oh, and $6,000 just showed up." I said, "Oh, it did. Isn't that interesting? That is, we had 6,100 as what would be your after tax, your what your budget is for what you're bringing in your business. Isn't that funny that just showed up in a month where you have had other things going on and haven't really been focused on working?"
Yeah.
I love that because
that's awesome.
When we're open and we set ourselves up for success, it doesn't always look like we thought it was, and it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Right? It's still awesome.
It's not like, oh, I said 6,000 and it was 6,100, so it didn't work.
Right. Exactly. Right? Yes.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. I know. And that gave me the thing, my favorite, it jumped into my head after you said it. My favorite is still the house when I manifested, which is what got me my financial freedom. I had said, okay, it became clear. I didn't just decide this. I always give this caveat. It wasn't controlling the how. Inspired action had led me to see how I could buy a 2-bedroom condo, and I could also buy a 1-bedroom condo, and the 1-bedroom condo could pay for the 2-bedroom condo. And that happened in a property that my sister and I purchased together. There was a 1-bedroom carriage house, which was my part of the property, and a 2-bedroom apartment, which was also my part of the property. And the carriage house paid for my 2-bedroom apartment.
Nice.
Yes. So that is one of my favorites because it just happened magically.
I'm going to see if my landlord will let me build a carriage house on the back deck.
You should.
It's only about 4 feet wide, so it has to be one of those weird alley houses, but
it's possible.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you. I love getting so many of my questions answered.
You're welcome. Thank you for interviewing me, and thank you to everybody for listening. Make sure to tune in to Maggie's next interview as well as my next interview, and just keep listening to The More Money Show because we love sharing money stories with you. Have a good one.
Thank you for joining us on The More Money Show. To learn how to attract more money into your life, go to your favorite book retailer and order Cassie's book, Manifest $10,000.